You know how some people move on like nothing ever happened. 16 years ago, a man named Stephen O'Meara was killed, buried in a remote woodland in Wicklow. A father, a son, a human being. Two men were already convicted. One got life, the other 8 years. The courts moved on. The news cycle moved on. But not everyone forgot. Because on Tuesday morning, Garda walked into a station in Wexford and arrested a woman in her 40s. Not for helping after the fact, not for lying to protect someone, but for murder. And just like that, a case we all thought was sealed got cracked wide open. What gets me about this? She didn't run. She didn't vanish. She stayed right here in Ireland for 16 whole years. Either she thought she was smart, or she thought the system was done looking. But the thing about cold cases, they don't stay cold forever. Stephen O'Meara disappeared in the middle of summer, August 6th, 2009. He was last seen alive in Rathdrum, County Wicklow. Then, nothing. No phone calls, no sightings, no goodbyes. His family hoped he'd come back. Maybe he was lying low. Maybe he was in trouble. But there's always that line between hope and fear. And then, on Christmas Eve, 4 months later, the search ended. Ballydonnell Woods, a dense, quiet forest not far from Wicklow. That's where Garda found him buried in a shallow grave under the trees. The forensic report was brutal. Stephen had been shot multiple times, but what's haunted investigators ever since is one horrifying possibility. He might have been still breathing when they started covering him with dirt. Let that settle in for a second. This wasn't just a hit. It wasn't just vengeance. It was a message. The kind of thing meant to make sure no one asks questions ever again. But someone clearly did. Because 16 years later, someone's being arrested for it. Back in 2012, the case looked done. Michael Dickinson, a man from Dublin, went down first. He didn't pull the trigger, but he drove Stephen into those woods. The court said he delivered him like a package, cold, calculated. He got life behind bars. Then came Clement Byrne. He didn't shoot anyone either, but he punched Stephen during the attack and helped cover it up. He got 8 years for manslaughter. At the time, everyone thought case closed. 2 convictions, a clear timeline. Another crime chalked up to drug deaths and street-level revenge. But here's where it gets weird. There was always this whisper that someone else was behind it. Someone smarter. Someone who paid for it to happen. And now, 16 years later, the guards are finally acting on that whisper. A woman in her 40s, no charges yet, but arrested for murder. So the question is, were those 2 guys just foot soldiers? Because if what the guards suspect is true, we're only now meeting the real boss behind Stephen O'Meara's death. She was never mentioned in court. No mugshot, no headline, just silence. While 2 men went down for Stephen's murder, this woman stayed in the background. For 16 years, not a single charge, not even a public accusation. But this week, that silence broke. On Tuesday, July 15th, guards arrested a woman in her 40s at a station in Wexford. Not for covering it up, not for helping hide the body. They arrested her on suspicion of murder. Now here's the thing. Sources say she wasn't some last-minute name. She's been on the guards' radar for years, but they couldn't touch her. No solid proof. Until now. They brought her in under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act, which means they had fresh intel. Something new, strong enough to reopen a case that everyone thought was over. And what they suspect? It's not that she helped, it's that she ordered it. We're not talking accomplice, we're talking orchestrator. Someone who may have planned Stephen's death like a business transaction, paid for it, organized it, then let others do the dirty work. That kind of power move. It doesn't scream panic, it screams control. So here's where the whole story flips. The guards now believe this wasn't some heat of the moment attack. It wasn't a drug deal gone wrong or a street brawl that escalated. They think this woman paid for it. According to the Irish Independent, investigators suspect she offered cash to a Dublin criminal, a hit, plain and simple. No struggle, no argument, just a quiet decision and a buried man. Think about that for a second. While people were focused on who fired the gun, someone else might have been sitting back, watching it unfold, knowing full well it was her call. That's what makes this case so chilling. Because if it's true, this wasn't about impulse. It was premeditated, thought out, financed, executed. A man was taken out because someone allegedly wanted him gone and had the money to make it happen. And if that's what really happened, then this arrest isn't just another suspect. It's the head of the snake. Let's be real, people don't just get arrested for murder 16 years later unless something new shows up. So the big question is, why now? What made the guards go from she's on our radar to bring her in? They haven't released exact details yet, but here's what's being whispered behind closed doors. New intel could be someone talked, someone who stayed quiet for years and suddenly came forward. Could also be phone data or digital evidence re-examined with modern tools. Tech doesn't forget, even if people do. Or maybe this was all part of a long game, waiting, watching, building a case until it was finally airtight. Either way, this wasn't random. The guards didn't just wake up and decide to shake things up. This arrest was calculated and based on something serious. And that tells us one thing. They're not just fishing. They believe she was deeply involved. This wasn't a rehash of old evidence. This was a new lead, strong enough to drag a woman out of her life and into one of the most infamous murder cases in Wicklow's history. On paper, the motive always looked simple. Stephen O'Meara owed money to the wrong people. The kind who don't send reminders, they send warnings. That's what the court said back in the day. That Stephen's drug-related debts caught up to him. That someone wanted to make an example. But here's what doesn't sit right. You don't bury someone alive just to settle a balance sheet. This wasn't some quick warning. This was designed to erase him. It was drawn out, deliberate, and terrifying. And now, with this woman in the frame, someone the guards suspect may have ordered the killing, the whole story shifts. Because if she paid for it, the question becomes, why him? Was it really about drugs? Or did he know something, say something, do something that couldn't be forgiven? Sometimes what looks like a debt is actually a cover for something a lot more personal. And if this woman really gave the order, then maybe this wasn't about what Stephen owed. It was about what he knew. So here's where things stand right now. That woman, the one arrested on Tuesday, July 15th, was detained under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act. That means the guards had up to 24 hours to question her. And from what's been confirmed, she's been interviewed intensely. Not just once, multiple times. They're digging, pressing, cross-checking timelines, motives, phone records, everything. But as of now, no charges yet. The guards say a file is being prepared for the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions. That's the office that decides whether there's enough to go forward with a formal charge of murder. This isn't just paperwork. This is the line between walking free and facing life in prison. Now, sometimes these files lead nowhere. But when it comes to cold cases, especially ones that involve pre-planned hits, they don't move unless they feel confident. Which tells us this: they believe something's there, something they didn't have 16 years ago. And if that file gets greenlit, then this woman who stayed in the shadows all this time could end up in a courtroom, facing the past she thought was buried for good. You can break down motives, you can follow money, you can spend 16 years chasing the truth, but some things you don't get back. Stephen O'Meara was a father of 3. His kids were young when he vanished in August 2009. One day, their dad walks out the door and just disappears. No warning, no goodbye. And for 4 months, all they had were questions. Then came Christmas Eve, the day Stephen was found buried in the woods. Imagine what that does to a family. Year after year, birthday after birthday, knowing someone out there did it and might still be walking free. Now suddenly, out of nowhere, their world's been flipped again. A new arrest, a new suspect. And this time, it's someone who wasn't even mentioned before. That's the thing about cases like this. Time doesn't heal it, it just buries it until it rises again. And for Stephen's children, this arrest isn't just a headline. It's a chance, maybe the only chance, to finally understand what happened and why their dad never came home. So now we're here. 2 men already served time. One of them's still behind bars. The case was supposed to be over. But this arrest, it's got people asking the question all over again. Did the guards finally find the person who ordered Stephen O'Meara's death? Or are we just scratching the surface of something bigger? Because let's be honest, if this woman really paid to have Stephen killed, who else knew? Who else helped cover it up? Who stayed silent for 16 years? And why? This isn't just a cold case anymore. It's a story about control, about silence, about thinking you got away with it. And now, that silence is cracking. So here's what to watch next. Will the DPP move to charge her with murder? Will we finally hear the full story in court? Or will she walk free, taking the truth with her? Either way, the past has come knocking, and someone's about to answer for what happened in those woods back in 2009. This case, it's not done yet.